Welcome to this discussion with Black female students majoring in STEM disciplines. These dynamic scholars will share their journeys, challenges, and triumphs as they navigate the intersection of race, gender, and academic rigor in STEM fields. Through their lived experiences, the panelists will highlight systemic barriers, discuss strategies for success, and offer valuable perspectives on how CU Boulder can better support underrepresented students in STEM. So before we get started, my name is Marisha Lopez. I am the program manager for the Access and Community Engagement Office, and I am going to lead us through the land acknowledgement. The University of Colorado Boulder, Colorado's flagship university, honors and recognizes the many contributions of Indigenous peoples in our state. CU Boulder acknowledges that it is located on the traditional territories and ancestral homelands of Cheyenne, Arapaho, Ute, and many other Native American nations. Their forced removal from these territories has caused devastating and lasting impacts. While the University of Colorado Boulder can never undo or rectify the devastation wrought on Indigenous peoples, we commit to improving and enhancing engagement with Indigenous peoples and issues locally and globally. We will do this by recognizing and amplifying the voices of Indigenous CU Boulder students, staff, and faculty, educating, conducting research, and supporting student success. And lastly, consulting, engaging, and working collaboratively with tribal nations to enhance our ability to provide access and culturally sensitive support and to recruit, retain, and graduate Native American students. And if you are interested in learning more about this, you can follow any of those QR codes at the bottom. There is one to CU Boulder's land acknowledgement, an ally guide, and a film that's available on Netflix. And now I am going to pass it over to Patricia.
Marisha. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. It is an honor to have your voices be centered. I know that you all have been doing phenomenal work in your field, but also your departments. And so it's just a joy to be able to center your voices. I want to thank you in advance for just showing up and being here and sharing your story. Welcome, everyone. Before I get started, I want to remind everyone we will have a Q&A at the end. So feel free to hold your questions as we get some of the questions answered. And then towards the end, we welcome some engagement with everyone here today. And I also wanted to point out before I get started the importance of why we are here today. And so my hope is that we start to recognize there needs to be more amplification of many students on campus, including, and particularly today, we're focusing on Black women in STEM. So just want to give you some data for CU Boulder in particularly. So fall of 2024, we've seen an encouraging enrollment increase for particularly Black students at CU Boulder. But just want to point out that the share of the first year students who identify as Black or African American has increased 7.9% to 660 students total. We are a large institution that has over 39,000 students. And I just want you to sit with that number because it does create urgency as to why we need to be creating spaces, but also creating access in education. And so when I share this number with you, I also want to highlight that there has been a growth in comparison to the year before. In 2023, we had 2.7% students who identify as Black and African American, and again, it had increased to 2.9%. And so we recognize that the work needs to continue and that education is not just for one particular body or student, but that everyone should have access to education. And so I also want to highlight that as of fall of 2024, female students represent 46.8% of CU Boulder's population. And so we do also want to give a little shout out, although we're in the College of Arts and Sciences, we also want to give a shout out to engineering, who has 41% of female students, which is a significant increase from 18% 2 decades ago. And so as STEM fields are beginning to grow and they're becoming a place where everyone has access to be a part of, I just want you to sit with today's conversation and honor the experiences of individuals who have been on this campus trying to make a change and also want to amplify and advocate for those who have not been historically represented. And so with that, I want to thank our students for sharing their unique perspectives and also their experiences here at CU Boulder. And I also now have the honor of introducing our moderator. And so Stephanie Colunga Montoya is a native of Colorado, a first-generation college graduate. This particular identity, English is my second language, I'm gonna try to roll with it, has been the cornerstone of her passion and career. She has over 20 years of higher education experience with areas focused on first-generation college student success, undergraduate student programming and retention, and advocacy in areas of equity and social justice. Stephanie was hired by the Division of Natural Sciences at the here at CU Boulder in the College of Arts and Sciences in 2022 as a director of inclusive practice with a focus on undergraduate student access, success, and engagement. Currently, alongside students, she is in the process of establishing the new center, which we hope more students can learn about, undergraduate belonging and engagement, the Cube. She also looks forward to continued collaboration with staff, faculty, and students to create a culture, a community of belonging where all students in the division can thrive. And so welcome, Stephanie. I'm going to pass it over to you. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
First, thank you for having me and inviting me to moderate. I'm so lucky to be here, sitting close to this panel of amazing women. So we'll get started. I am going to read their bios and I want to get them right. So I'm going to pull them up here. Maybe. There it is. Yes. Okay, so now for introductions. I'm going to start at the far end of the table. And here we have Faith Miller. Faith is a first-year PhD student in material science and engineering at the University of Colorado, researching tendon health and regeneration in Dr. Kauf's musculoskeletal extracellular matrix lab. She is originally from New Orleans, Louisiana, and earned her Bachelor of Science from Oglethorpe. Yes, University in May 2024. She previously interned with Estee Lauder companies where she worked on innovative cosmetic formulations, sparking her passion for material sciences. And our next panelist, Ms. Ayan Yule. Ayan is Sudanese and originally from Denver, Colorado. She is currently a sophomore majoring in neuroscience in hopes of becoming a neurosurgeon. She is dedicated to pursuing a career in the medical field and passionate about inspiring generations ahead. She currently works at the Colorado Diversity Initiative alongside Dr. Christina Alston. Welcome, Ayan. And our next panelist, Ms. Leanne Amin. Ms. Leanne is a PhD student in STEM education at the University of Colorado Boulder, where she explores the connections between science, culture, and identity. She holds a master's degree in teaching and a bachelor's in biology. A former Florida high school science teacher, she is passionate about shaping learning spaces that recognize and uplift the lived experiences of those often overlooked in STEM. Grounded in sociocultural and critical race theories, her work examines culturally sustaining pedagogies and the role of identity in science education. Her current projects include working on a space weather curriculum and investigating the science of football. On campus, she serves as a leader for Boulder Black Blossoms, volunteers with the cause, and works in the athletic department as a learning facilitator. She is a proud woman of color, Caribbean and African American heritage. As a daughter, sister, and descendant of slaves and immigrants, she honors the love, resilience, and sacrifices of those who came before her. Outside of research, she enjoys hiking, traveling, going to football games, and spending time with family, embracing the beauty of nature and community. Whoa. Wonderful. We are going to jump right into questions. And so I'll ask the question to the panelists, and you're welcome to answer or pass. We have a few, and then, like we said, we'll open up at the end. So our first question, can you share your journey into STEM and what motivated you to pursue this field?
I can start. My journey into STEM, I would say, started like as soon as my journey in this world began. I grew up in New Orleans, and because of that, Hurricane Katrina came. And so I was about 2 or 3 when that happened. And so my mom homeschooled me up until 3rd grade. And she said I would ask her, can we do science every single day? She was also an engineer, so I had her to look at. And I just always loved figuring out how and why things work. And I kind of just leaned into that, and that's what got me to where I am now.
So for me, I grew up in like a Sudanese family. I'm the youngest of 4, and so I was the only one who was actually born out here in America, while the rest of my family was born in Sudan. They moved here like well before I was born, but my parents often do take us back home to kind of visit family and just kind of like make sure we're remembering where our roots came from and not forgetting that. And so like often going back home to Sudan, it's like, or just Africa in general, like it's really easy to get sick. And like that's some of the things I started to notice, like the more often I would go. Like things like malaria are like such a big thing there and like still affecting the country like very, very much. And so like coming into college, I just knew I wanted to do something that was either going to be beneficial in the medical field in some shape or way, or something that would get me to be able to benefit my country and give back to my country, whether it was through like opening up a medical clinic there or something that would bring like better medicines into the country to help my people and kind of like, you know, mitigate the amount of deaths that we see in the country every year. And so, yeah, and kind of like going on with what Faith said, like in high school, I loved science so much. And I was just always like so into my classes, and my teachers would even notice it. But I personally didn't notice it. I just realized like, wow, I really am really interested in like a lot of these things. And like, I know I could find myself asking so many questions. So I just knew like STEM was where I wanted to be.
So kind of similar to you guys, and I had always loved STEM and science. I remember being 4th grade and like really loving going out in the field. And we would hunt for salamanders and crayfish, and I just loved all that kind of stuff. And so my parents really fostered that within me, and they encouraged me to read more. And then so I got to high school, and in biology, we dissected pigs, and I thought that was really interesting. And so I just went on to take AP Environmental Science and different courses like that. And I was also a part of the Microsoft Science Fair, where I looked at phytoplankton, which was really interesting. And my teacher kind of was like, what the heck are you looking at phytoplankton for in high school? And then I moved to Florida, which is like, I love anything outdoors. And I feel like that's really where you can, you know, see science in nature. And so, yeah, I majored in biology, and I did a lot of field research, and I loved really being, like, so the specific days we would be in the field, like just in the ocean, catching like baby fish. That was like amazing, and I loved it so much, and it didn't feel like research. So it just really like fostered that love within me while, you know, doing something that's helpful for your community.
Thank you. Our next question is, how has your identity as a Black woman and your interest in STEM influenced your college choice process?
Yeah, we can go like this one.
Yeah.
Okay. So being a Black woman, I think originally, like I'm from a Caribbean family, like I mentioned, and a lot of my family grew up in New York, and that was very culturally diverse. So it was different moving to Florida, where there was like North Florida, where there's a lot of African-American families, but not necessarily Caribbean. But like, I loved living in Jacksonville, because I was able to foster that side of myself, and just be around people that looked like me, going to the University of North Florida. And then being able to teach on the west side of Jacksonville. And if you're from Jacksonville, you know, there's a part of town, it's called Out East. And I taught there as well. And just being within that community, and it was, I want to say like 75% Black, it was, or more. It was just so beautiful being among people that looked like me and we could share the same cultural values. So when I went to go look for a PhD program, if I'm being honest, like I looked for places that were fully funded first. Because that's some of the values that my family instilled in me, is just like having a low amount of debt. You know, it allows you to do different things later in life. So I'm very grateful for that advice. So CU Boulder provided that opportunity, and they also had a pathway program that I think was really, really instrumental into me helping me choose here. And it was for people of color that wanted to pursue PhD programs, because I am the first person in my family to get a master's and pursue a PhD. So that guidance was very helpful, in the funding opportunities.
So unlike these two, it is like, it's my first like set of college experience, I guess, because they had undergrad and now grad school. But for me, it was kind of like Leanne said, it was mainly like where I was able to get the most funding, just because like you don't want to come to college with like all this stress about how you're gonna pay for college, and like how you're gonna get all these things paid for, your housing, your food. Like, you want to just focus solely on your education, because that's what is very important. But when you have all of these other factors like kind of pouring into the cup, it's like you're overfilling yourself. You're not able to focus on what's really important. And so now, like, you're in college trying to figure out how to pay for your housing, how to pay for your food, and how to pay for your tuition. And it's like setting you back in your academics. So it's like, then what's the point after all of it? Because you're not able to focus on your academics. But yeah, so like definitely like funding was a very, very important factor. I also wanted to stay close to home. I just don't think I was ready to go state for college just yet. Like, I just don't think I was there, especially like right after high school. And like my high school was a very, very culturally diverse place as well. So the difference between like my high school and coming here, like, it was a very, very big difference. And I think I kind of noticed myself just starting to become a lot more independent, because I know in high school, like, I had a really large community around me, and it was like everyday thing, you know, we would have classes together, we would have all these things. But like we'll probably get into like the conversation about that later, but we it's kind of like being the only in a room. And we had like a really, really like good talk about that just a few months ago. But yeah, and that is definitely something that I started to notice in college. But yeah, I feel like overall I just wanted to stay close to home. And I think it's a good thing as well, because like being the only, like, you do want to be able to go home and like be with your family, be with family members, like be with those that you know within the state. So
for me, I would say my identity definitely played a really big role in where I selected to go for undergrad. I did my undergrad at Oglethorpe University, which is a school that has no majority, which is very, very hard to come by. It is only 1,500 students though, so it's a very small university. And it's also in Atlanta, which gave me access to a very large Black community around me. And from that, I like made amazing friendships with other Black women, relationships with other people that identify the same as I do. And I have my family at home. So I felt like my cup for those kinds of relationships was very full. And then I went on my grad school visits. So for those who don't know, when you get into PhD programs, typically they will have you come visit in fields like engineering. And I came here and another university. And both universities were PWIs, and I knew that that was something I was going to have to deal with. But the difference in how I was received at those universities made a really big difference. And when I came on my visit here, the program acknowledged its lack of diversity, which I think is a really big thing. And for me, it would have made me a lot more comfortable had I seen someone that looks like me when I came. And I was like, I could be that someone for the next person. And this university gives the impression, and like through my experience, that it's very willing to fix this issue while some are not looking to do the same. So I was happy, like, okay, I will be the person in this room, and hopefully my being here will encourage the next one, and then it'll grow and it'll get better from there.
Thank you.
Can I just add one
Yes.
more thing? I totally agree with what Faith said about the visit. Was that people did very much acknowledge the lack of diversity, and especially in regard to Black women in STEM, and we know that that's a problem. I dare say globally. And then I think another thing that was really interesting is the media's perception of our school right now, just based off of our football team. And that's something that has personally driven my own research since I've got here, because I feel like the perception since Coach Prime has been here is that, like, there's a lot of Black people, and in my personal experience, like once I started walking around campus, I can walk for a while and not see one single person of color. But then on game days, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many of us. Like, this is beautiful. And I think that's wonderful. And I would love that feeling to go beyond, you know, just a game day, and to really realize, like, for other people of color to realize, like, we are an R1 institution. We have a wonderful academic program in conjunction with a wonderful football team. So I think that if we just work together, and, you know, we can use our different platforms, and like I mentioned, things like this, and just different ways of like public scholarship to get that message out there, I think we can create a broader community.
Thank you for adding that point. I think it's very relevant in this time period that CU is in. So
Yes.
yes, for sure. I love this next question. Who are your role models or sources of inspiration as you pursue your STEM education?
I would say the most prominent one in my experience is my mom, because she got an engineering degree and then felt like she was then pushed out of the engineering field. Like, she wasn't accepted, she didn't feel welcome, she didn't enjoy the time at work. And when I decided to get my PhD in engineering, she was so excited, because she was like, you're doing what I felt like I couldn't do, and you're breaking that glass ceiling for someone else. And like having her stand behind me and realizing, like, the generation before was held back and now we're breaking through, and then there's gonna be another one after that's gonna be even better off, and like, that's really exciting.
I would say my role model right now is my manager, Dr. Christina Austin. She is also a Black woman in STEM education, and like Faith was saying, like during her like years going through like STEM, like she had a lot of major like pushbacks from people, and like now I can see it like a lot that she will not hold back, like, you know, like
Yeah.
she does not hold back, because it's like she was told that she couldn't do it, and now she's breaking like so many barriers, and it's like very, very like inspirational to see those things, because it's like it encourages me to make sure that like I don't hold back either. It's like I make sure I'm just continuing to push forward no matter like what pushbacks I get, and like especially like coming into this whole STEM world as a Black woman, like it's kind of like now I'm understanding people are saying, oh yeah, like we're very underrepresented in this field, and so I see it a lot, and it's very encouraging to have someone who's been through a lot of these things and who's also like mentoring me as I go through that.
I definitely agree with Ian's sentiments that we all vet through Boulder Black Blossoms, which is an initiative that Dr. Alston has implemented here at the university. And I think it's very important to have things like that, and to have people that will stand and promote endeavors like that, and like what we're doing here today. Because it helps us feel seen. And I think that's really important. Definitely my family is really important to me, and they always kind of had this, you know, don't worry about what other people think mentality. And I think that's very important in a field where you can be looked down upon based off of your race and your gender. And just to go on with that, like some scholars that I really admire are people like Kimberly Crenshaw, who talks a lot about being like intersectionality and how all your different identities play a huge role in your life. And then other people like Rashida Likely, she's a wonderful scholar, and Dr. Ebony McGee, she's in the field of engineering. And she wrote this book called Black, Brown, and Bruised, and it talks about all the different things that people of color go through in STEM fields, and it's one of the books that like drove me to my PhD program. So people like that are really great. And Dr. Rashida Likely, she talks about her dissertation was it was called Lotions and Potions. And it was really, really cool because it talks about how like young Black girls doing their hair, they go through these iterative cycles that are basically, the scientific method of you buying a hair product and then trying it and then it not working and then you have to start all over again. So she really that was just like really validating, and I draw upon her work for my own as well.
Really cool. Thank you for the shout outs to all the fabulous people that are supporting you all and being inspirations, right? That's really great. Also excited about this question because I'm excited to hear your answers. What contributions do you hope to make to your field of STEM? And how do you see yourself influencing the future of STEM as a Black
That's a big one.
woman?
I can start.
Yeah, go ahead, baby.
For me, my end goal is to be a cosmetic scientist. Like that is what I want, and that's what drove me to do my internship at Estee Lauder, which love that company, by the way.
That's awesome.
But I want to do science for us by us. And I think that is the gap that we're missing, especially in cosmetics and hair care. Liam was just talking about the process of being a Black woman trying to figure out how to do your hair. I mean, I would say it took me 10 years to figure out what works for me. I want to contribute to that process and like help Black women feel beautiful, because when you feel beautiful, it improves your life in so many ways and it makes you more confident and you can do so much more. So I want my overall contribution to this space to be, like I said earlier, one, being in the space so that others feel comfortable joining it, but also to impact the cosmetic industry with my research eventually.
So my end goal is to become a neurosurgeon, and I wanted to become a neurosurgeon for like a couple of different reasons. My older brother actually suffers from epilepsy, and so like growing up, I've seen like my parents and my older brother, like they've just gone through so much just trying to help him. And so like I wanted to do something that would not only contribute to like my family, but also contribute to like the Black community as well. And so like I do also plan on getting a public health minor. And so with that minor, I want because I know neurosurgeon is a very like specific field, and like that is like my final like my end goal. But like as I'm going through this whole process, I do want to do something that's like where I can contribute to the medical field for like the Black community, of course. And so there's a lot of like things that contribute to, in public health, we're learning about this a lot, things that are contributing to like Black families, Black communities, people who live in low income neighborhoods, and just like people of color in general, just like not having access to these medical help, healthcare, like all of that. And they're put at a very, very high risk of like all these sicknesses, all these things, all these diseases. And I just want to be able to contribute, like help them. And yeah, I mean, it might be biased for me to focus specifically like on people of color, but I feel like it's been,
We need it. We need it.
We've been like, no one's really paying attention to us. And I feel like as a Black woman, especially, it's very important that we just uplift ourselves and uplift others as well. And that's what I like really want to do.
It's kind of even the scale.
Yes. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. For me, I didn't come here with the intention of looking at the intersection between like sports and education and science. I really just saw a large disparity of people that looked like me in my organic chemistry classes. Like I just remember this one specific example. There was a young Black man on the other side of the lecture hall, and he came to me and he's like, I just want to introduce myself. Like, it's so nice seeing another person of color in my classes. And it took me a second to realize, number one, that was so like beautiful of him to do that. But number two, in my other classes, like there isn't anybody else that really looks like me. So I came here with the idea that, and also when I became a teacher, I just noticed that a lot of my students didn't really understand the practicality of science and how it was in their life every single day. So just fostering that love was really important to me. It's just so I can have more people that look like me when they're in their classes or when they're at work or at things like this. But I think the end goal, really, when I started my job with the athletics facility, because I was in my classes in my PhD program and there were barely any people of color. And then I went over to the athletics facility and I'm seeing like so many beautiful shades of brown in leadership positions. I'm talking to these athletes, that have a lot of them. They have a lot of stereotypes imposed upon them, especially Black men, that they have, they're dumb jocks or just being Black men. They have a lot of stereotypes imposed upon them. But I've had like beautiful conversations with them about their academics, that I just found so insightful. And I kind of asked them why weren't they in STEM degrees? And so that kind of helped me understand that maybe we need to change what we view as traditional science and to see science in other ways. And something that I looked at was Dr. Enrique Lopez is in my department and he looks at like science in the Latina communities. And so, I mean, I'm Puerto Rican. And so growing up, my dad, he got mad at me one time because I cooked the sofrito, but I just put it in the beans without like frying it. And so my dad was like, what are you doing? You're supposed to fry the sofrito first. And I never understood that. But, it's a chemical change that happens when you fry things first and then it brings out the flavors. So I didn't realize like all of that stuff is science. And so just changing, the paradigm from something so traditional and Eurocentric to something that we all have done our entire lives.
Thank you. So inspiring. I probably speak for everyone, but super inspiring. These are super cool things that you all are interested in. I love it. It's great. Okay, our next question. What steps can institutions take to promote diversity and inclusion in STEM fields?
I will go. I think institutions should, number one, they should outsource, especially places like here. Like I know Ayen and Dr. Alston just went to NSBE in Chicago. And I think that's important because there is a large African American population in Chicago, but they're also pooling together, people from all over the country. But if you're not going to conferences that are for people of color or areas that are known for having a large demographic for people of color, then obviously you're not going to have them at your institution. And I feel like we spend so much money on so many other things besides broadening the pool of students. So I think that's important. I think having events like this are important. And if I'm being honest, like, I think it is disappointing that this room is so hollow. I think our school puts money in other places that can be used to support other PhD students or, scholarships for undergraduate students. And I think we just need to reevaluate that and be very real with ourselves, and just continue to retain and support the people that really need it and that are working to change their community. Off my soapbox.
I feel like we really need to stop being like categorized, because I feel like just the people of color generally is just such a huge category, whereas everyone else is just normal. And to us, like, we look so different to everyone else. So like all these departments and things that we have, like all of these clubs, and like they're not really put out there for people to know that we're there. So like there are so many clubs, and I feel like the school could do a better effort at like showing up, like events like this, like Leanne said, like just showing up even helps a lot, because you get to understand like the points of view of people. But we're put into such a category where people think we're just like different from them, and it's like we're all human.
I thought about that on the way here.
Yeah, it's like we're all human. Like we're not like, they look at us like we're so different, and I just feel like they need to just stop doing that and kind of just see that they can incorporate us into things more and they can involve themselves as well. I feel like the school could do, not even just the school, but I mean, like, people could just do a better job at involving themselves with us, like, not seeing it as like a burden for them to just come to certain like things for an hour. Or this,
Cause it's like, it's for Black women, but
Yeah.
it's like, it's for anybody.
Yes.
and yeah.
For me, the first thing that comes to mind is dollar signs.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, in order for things like higher education to be more inclusive, like certain communities are. You have to put money into it, like you have to invest in these communities, and I believe you'll get your investment back tenfold, like.
Mhm.
I think
The research
Yes.
shows.
exactly, like me being here, like my PI decided to invest in me, and like. That makes me even more motivated to like do the best I can and be the best person. Dr. Christina Olson, she invested in the three of us, like that also makes me feel like I wanna show up, I wanna do the best I can. And so it's about investing in your students and being conscious of it. And one thing that I think CU did do, and I said it earlier, is acknowledging the lack first. Like you have to know that there's a problem before you can solve it. And I think a lot of institutions around the company, or not around the world, are a little bit too okay with the lack of diversity, and they're very comfortable and they don't want to change it, and it's very obvious. And so, yeah, it's like acknowledging it and then investing in it.
I definitely, just to add like another point onto the dollars thing, it's like you cannot ask students that are already spread very thin to do things for free and to just come out to things to volunteer. And I felt very grateful that we were compensated today because I mean, like, we're students first, like, we have a lot on our schedules. Faculty of color have a lot on their hands as well. So for you to ask people to volunteer to be the face of these things, I mean, obviously it causes fatigue in other areas. So if you're gonna ask people to do things and volunteer and speak about their experiences, like, back that up by showing that they're valued monetarily.
Yeah, kind of just to add on that point, especially with everything that's going on right now, I think it's just so. It's just saddening to see that we're being threatened to like about doing things for free. Like, people, why are people being threatened to get paid? Like, it just doesn't make sense, and that kind of goes with the whole categorization thing. Like, this whole federal law thing that they're trying to incorporate, like they think it's worldwide, like they think it's for everyone, but it's just affecting a specific group of people. It's not affecting everyone. And so like, why do we have to be put into those positions? Like, it just
Systemic marginalization.
Really good point, Grace. Thank you. What resources or support networks, either here on campus or outside, have been particularly helpful to you that you'd recommend to other Black women in STEM?
If y'all have one in common.
Yeah.
We are all Black women blossoms, and I think that that made a huge difference for me coming into CU. Like, to sit in a room full of Black women when I had told myself like that wouldn't happen. Like, I had already
Yes.
convinced myself that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
It was so amazing. I love these two, and like I get to see them regularly now when we've made like genuine relationships, and that goes a long way. Like, I know if I'm down bad and I have a room of people who will understand that and my experience specifically. Like, if something were to go awry, I know I have a group of people who I can go to that would understand me and be willing to help. And so I think it's made such a big difference.
I always get the name right, so let me slow down when I say it. The Boulder's Black Blossoms. Yeah, that's something the three of us have in common, and I think Dr. Austin did start this whole program, and it's like a very beautiful thing because it really brings together the very small percentage of people that you spoke about earlier here at the school together, and like it's very, very comforting to see like that we do have a sisterhood here. Like, we do have sisters, and so like if we just get to branch out to them, like we can. I think that's very beautiful.
For me, I know personally, Boulder Black Blossoms has been absolutely wonderful here. And like Faith said, I remember when Dr. Angela Neal Barnett came and she spoke to us about being the only, that we had a dinner full of people of color, like a faculty, and staff have dinner all together. And when I say I almost cried that night, because I had thought like that would never ever happen here when I stepped foot on campus. And I think the timing has been absolutely wonderful with everything that Dr. Alston has been doing. It's been really great. And then like my advisor has been absolutely wonderful, Dr. Erin Furtak. She always sends me like different opportunities and she knows my interests in Black education. So she is always, putting in grants and asking, never asking us to do anything for free. I think that's really important because if you have an advisor that just expects so much of you, that can also lead you to not want to continue in the field. And then for me, my undergraduate experience, I know being a part of clubs, but I also joined a sorority, a historically Black sorority. And I think that was really nice to have like community events all together. And that was really wonderful. And I've met some really great people here that have been a part of AKA that have helped me, build a Black community in a state that, the demographic is so overwhelmingly white. So that's been really nice. But talk to people. I think that's my problem here is like, cause I'm like from the South and I feel like Southern hospitality is just like different where you talk to people and you just say hello to people. And if like I see another person of color, like I'm gonna look at you and I'm gonna smile or something, but I don't get that here. Like I don't know what, I don't know what the deal is here. And I'm like, okay, like maybe I'm weird, but I think that's like how you just build connections and just not be on your phone too much and just know like other people like want to talk to other people. And I think that just remembering that, we're all human at the end of the day and making those connections, it's really important.
Like attending small events like really gets you along with.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing with like speaking, like if you attend these events around campus, like you'll get to know people that you never thought you would even like cross paths with. So I think that's a really, really, really cool thing. Yeah, clubs is definitely a big thing. There's like a lot of like Black Student Alliance, African Student Alliance. Yeah, a lot of those clubs, like they do have events where like all like, the small percentage of Black students here, like they all come together and I like, that's a really good place to meet people and like you'll make lifelong lasting friendships. And I think that's really, it's gonna wrap it.
Yeah. One thing to add, I am the only Black woman in my cohort. And I just like showed up unapologetically as like an excited Black woman, and that attracted non-Black people to me that had a certain respect for that part of my identity. And I think that's also really important. Like in an environment where there are less Black people, it is important to also foster relationships with other people. Like you don't ever want to be isolated, but make sure you show up as who you really are. And you'll find the people that love and respect that about you. And I think that was really important.
Really good points, right? Support networks are key. I don't know how anyone survives college without those networks. So excellent. Thank you so much. I think in looking at time, maybe we can open up to folks if there are any questions, either based on something you've heard or maybe something new. We'll have about 5 minutes for that. So yes.
It sounds like Boulder's Black Blossoms has been really impactful for all of you, which is amazing. Can you speak a little bit more for those of us who might want to help connect students to that? Like, are there certain programs that are eligible, undergrads, grads? Can you just speak about what that's like?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we could all speak to it. I'll just say like one thing. It's for Black women in STEM graduate studies. So that'll be my one thing. You guys want we did all have to apply in some form. Dr. Alston reached out to all of us based on, I guess, our CU files. I'm sure that information is in there. We do host events sometimes, like that's definitely something that people could come to. I'm not quite sure how you would like get involved in it. Well, we have like a lot of like it's posted on social media and like different departments get emails. We do like a lot of, I know IN does like a lot of outreach that way. So yeah, I think just having, I mean, I spoke with my advisor about, being a woman of color here, and she did her due diligence and like she helped me apply to be a diversity initiative fellow and to help find the Boulder Black Blossoms and things of that nature. So, yeah, just like you said, support networks are really important. And we do like a lot of community building together. And I know something that I really liked is we went to the African American history for Black History Month. In February, we had a table there and we volunteered, and I think that was really nice because we had a lot of people in the Boulder community, not just CU, come to that, and I think that was nice. And I think it was very impactful. I know Wanda James spoke there and she said some very important things that I agree with, just about leadership and people of color at the university. So I think just connecting us to all those events have been really nice.
Dr. Austin, do you want to add anything?
Down there.
But Boulder's Black Blossom is a sister circle that is geared toward allowing Black women to self-define their reality. Share what they think is positive, share what they think is negative, but lean into being themselves in these spaces and seeing other people, how they communicate this, and how they navigate the world, and knowing that it will be different for every single body. And through that true community is what we do. So we have monthly sister circles, and then each month we'll have at least one social event. And that could be something that is as small as us doing a tailgate party, or it could be us going out and connecting with other members of the community. And so the whole point is that for us to see ourselves how we are, but others to see us how we are as well. Applications for the program will take place in August of each year. Hopefully I get my impact grant. But yes, so this year was the inaugural year of the program. We're also trying to expand and partner with the Black Woman Alliance, which is a CU Boulder Black Women Student Group, which is an official group on campus, and they focus more on the undergraduate population with mentorship from graduate students. So there possibly could be a way as you graduate from being a Blossom, you would move into a mentor role with the Black Woman Alliance.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, thanks, Amelia.
One more question, anybody has? Yes.
Well, speaking as the only male identifying person in the room, thank you for allowing me to be in space. I also identify as an Afro-Latino. I'm an APS graduate student working with John Keller as astronomy education specialist. And my heart is resonating exactly to be this room. So thank you all for allowing me here. I also do want to say that I'm presenting a planetarium show where I'm highlighting my Blackness within my prologue of my show and at the end of my show as well. So I highly recommend you guys all attend. It's next Thursday at 7 p.m. at this.
Yes, I was gonna say, let us know, we can send it out for sure.
Also applying for to the research.
What's the thing? What's the thing?
Sorry, I want to talk to you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Not just the short.
Yeah, but you didn't.
Yes, I am, sure. News to me that I'm a fellow. Didn't know I would become my CV.
Amazing. Yes.
Thanks.
Thank you
Yeah,
all
thank
for
you all.
participating. Thank you for being here. Of course, let's thank our panelists.
Yeah.